This week we speak about the Bikurim, and when one brings the new fruits, the basket, one makes a declaration. And the declaration is the declaration on the simple reading of expressing our gratitude for all that Hashem has done for us from our humble beginnings. Yaakov, when he fled from Lavan, his father's home with his family, and if Hashem wouldn't have intervened, he would have killed us. He would have killed Yaakov and his family. That's how he was against what Yaakov stood for. That's Arami Ovidovi. However, there's a famous Orach Chaim Kodesh in this week's Parsha, which the supplication is, other than that, the simple understanding, we're praying to Hashem to deal with certain issues, as he will explain. So he explains Arami Ovidovi, very fundamental things here. The Arami, the Aramean. Ramai means a charlatan, a person who deceives. Who is the ultimate deceiver? This is the Satan, who always ensnares us, entangles us, and seduces us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a power called Satan, Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. He is the Arami. Who's Avi? Avi is the Neshama. The Satan, his objective is to destroy, to continuously present challenges to the soul, to undermine the soul, the Neshama. And as we learned in Sisashorim, in the Gemara, that the Satan is such a formidable force that unless Hashem intervenes, you can't survive him. He could outwit you. He is 24/7, every moment of your life, from the moment you come into this existence. So Arami Ovidovi, that's the first thing, our statement when we come to the Beis HaMikdash, which is the location of Shechina, we're supplicating Hashem. And we say to him, Shea Neshama Shel Atzmotzosov Shel Asoton Labid Neshama. The whole purpose and the only purpose of the Satan, of Satan, is to destroy the soul of the Jew. V'Neshama Nikras Av. The Neshama is referred to as the Father. Ka'omram B'Zor Pashas Lech Lecha, cites a Zohar in Lech Lecha. V'hu Amonea Ba'odam Me'asos Chiyuva B'Avodas Hashem. And what is the power which prevents the person from serving Hashem? This is the Arami. This is the Satan. Lozu B'Luvod Eleveri Mitzrayma. What does it mean? We went down to Egypt. Now, in Hebrew, the word Meitzar means the straits, the constraints. When the Neshama goes into the body, it has constraints, because now we're subject to all the physicality and all the desires of the world. All the challenges begin once we come into this existence. Pirush HaMokom Shu Sheba Bo Yetzer. Mitzrayma. The Yetzer, the inclination, that's its location. Shu Gufa Shel Odom. Hu Meitzorav Shel HaYetzer HaKrov Meilov. That's the playing field. The playing field of the Yetzer is when the Neshama is in the body. Now you're in his camp. Now we're on his we're on his playing field. Besod v'nochash ofa lachmo. The snake, the Nochash HaKadmoni, the ancient serpent from Gan Eden, that was the Satan. And what it says, Nochash Ofer Lachmo, the physicality, the earth, that's its fodder. So where is its location? Its location is the physicality of the human being. And therefore, a person, when we're born into existence, our inclination, all our desires have relevance to all the desires of this world. Umetamov Ashehisiv Hashem, and everything that Hashem allowed to be abominated. All the abominations of existence, the human being is drawn to and is attracted to. Why? Ki arba yesodos shebo hein hayom acha shechot ha'odom. A human being is made of, or existence, there are four elements. Nikshemu v'nitamu. As a result of the Eitz Hadas, all the four elements became contaminated and abominated. That's why Hashem decreed death on the human being. Why are we susceptible to his seduction? Because every aspect of our being has been physicalized and has been abominated due to the evil of the Eitz Hadas. Gam yikra guf mitzraymo lefisha meitzar lenefesh b'tayvosov. The reason why the body is also called mitzraymo, because it actually constricts the nefesh to its desires. You're under its domination. Just want to clarify this with the Ramchal. The Ramchal writes that why do you have to have resurrection? Before Adam ate of Eitz Hadas, the person was pure. His only level challenge was, do you eat, don't you eat? If he would have not eaten, he would have met the challenge, he would have reached his level of perfection. When he failed, not only did he not reach his level of perfection, he intermingled in this pure entity, what we call unadulterated evil. Evil cannot exist eternally. The ultimate objective is man should be eternal. That means there has to be resurrection. The schar v'onish, reward and punishment, the reward is ultimately to have that eternal relation with Hashem. Body and soul. But the body can't be eternal now because the body contains the evil. So therefore the person has to die. The body decomposes. And when the body is resurrected, it's resurrected only in the pure makeup, the pure matter that initially was created with. And the evil remains in the ground. So that's what he's saying. Since we became putrefied and physicalized due to the Eitz Hadas, that's the reason why a person has to die. That's what was decreed, death on the person, because the evil, which you cannot extract from the person, so the only way it can be separated and filtered out is only through death, through decomposition. Therefore, the Gemara says that even though tzaddikim don't decompose in the grave, but the moment before Tchias HaMesim, before resurrection, every human being will turn to dust and immediately will be resurrected. Moshe Rabbeinu. The moment before he's resurrected, he will turn to dust and be resurrected. Because the only reason why Moshe was subject to death was because every human being is tainted with some element of that evil, because all mankind are descendants of Adam Rishon, who ate and ingested the Eitz Hadas, which was Tov v'Ra. Okay, that's what he's alluding to. The Ramchal, as I'm explaining, that's how the Ramchal explains this. Vayogor Shom. We went to Egypt, Vayog, and we sojourned there. Ki betchilas nichnas kiger. This is quoting the Gemara in Sukkah. Initially, the Yetzer comes like a stranger. He hasn't yet taken over. Ka'omro, v'yovo v'yelech b'msei ma'ot. Pirush b'kochs have miwatim. When we first came to Egypt, we weren't affected to such degree. Initially, it's Mesei ma'ot, only traces of him. V'akach misrabim kochosav ba'odom, then he takes over. Gradually, it festers and it takes over. The evil inclination, v'yisham the goy godol otzum v'rov. Then ultimately he becomes this great, powerful existence, otzum, immensely powerful, v'rov, overwhelmingly great, besod. Now he says something phenomenal. David Amal says, "V'salachti lavoni." When David supplicated Hashem to forgive him for his sin, "V'salachti, why should you forgive me for my sin?" Ki ravhu, because it's abundant. So he cites that Rizal, Ki ravhu, my sin is great. Do you know why? Because our formidable foe is overwhelmingly beyond our ability to contend with him. Hapirish Harizal shechozel hamafati ki ravhu. The mafati, the seducer, is beyond our ability. Therefore, you should forgive us, understanding us that we're only victims of this power called Satan. V'arayo shetziva Hashem b'yom HaKippurim. He says, what's the confirmation on this? That in Kippur we have to bring the two goats. One goat is brought Lashem, the other goat is Lazozel. So what do we have to bring the goat Lazozel? That's only to confirm that, as the Ramban writes over there, that the Satan, we don't want him to interfere with the Midas HaRachmim. So we distract him, we give him what we call shochad. It's like giving him bribery, but what do we have to bribe? What do we have to distract him? The answer is because God created him as such a powerful force that unless you distract him, He actually interferes and doesn't allow things to happen. That's his power. So therefore, it's terrific. So I was thinking when I was learning this that if we come before Hashem as helpless victims, and we truly explain and express ourselves saying we want to do the right thing, but the reason why we can't because he's so overwhelming, then Hashem sees us, as we said, Elokim Yivakish Nirdaf. God always favors the Nirdaf, the pursued. We're pursued. A pursued person means you're helpless, you have nowhere to turn. You've exhausted all avenues of escape, and you can't escape this. But again, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the Sola Azazel to confirm that we're victims because he's such a formidable foe. He has to be bribed that he should not interfere with the process of tshuva. So when we bring the Sola Azazel on Yom Kippur, it's Hashem's way of saying you have no prosecution. You know, a person who comes before the judge, he's guilty, and then it's found out that he was taken hostage and victimized by his captor, and he turned him into this. That's what we're saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's Rafu. I don't want Chas v'Shalom to bring in Patty Hearst into the equation over here. Patty Hearst, when she was taken captive, eventually she became part of that group. So they said psychologically, that a person who's taken captive, eventually he identifies with the captor and could become exactly like the captor, although the person started off innocently because of the constraints of the person. Take that and multiply it endless time what the Yetzer Hara does to us. You know, the Ben Ish Chai authored a book on like Proverbs, and he explains what the Yetzer Hara is. He gives a moshel, he explains it with an allegory. There was this knight who was riding on his mount with his knightly garments, and he was coming into the city. Before he came into the city, he wanted to stop off at a river and bathe, and then get dressed and go into the city in a bathed state, in a clean state. And there's a filthy urchin on the road, tattered rags, and the urchin says to the knight, "Could I get a lift with you to the city?" He says, "Sure, just hop on the back of the horse." He says, but he says to the urchin, "But you realize before I go, I'm going to stop off at the river and bathe." As the knight is bathing in the river, this urchin goes, puts on the knight's clothing, gets on the horse, and he comes into town that he's the knight. The knight comes out, he sees what happens. He puts on these tattered, filthy clothing, and he comes in barefoot, everything, and he starts screaming at the person on the horse. He says, "He's not the knight. I'm the knight. He's the urchin." So the Yetzer Hara, so the urchin says, "What else is new? There's something wrong with the man." Initially, you let the Yetzer Hara into your house. It's like the urchin wants to catch the ride to the city. Once you let him in, he takes over. He sits at the head of the table. You're in the kitchen, or you're in the pantry, or you're taking out the trash, and eventually you become trashed. That's exactly the Yetzer Hara. He comes in subtly, gently, knocks on the door. "Can I have something? Can I sit down?" Once you start talking to him, he starts influencing you, and ultimately, he takes over your life. That's exactly what the evil inclination is. And that's what we're saying over here. Initially, Vayogosham, the way it starts, he's like a ger, he's like a stranger. But ultimately, and he's a small, tiny influence. But there he becomes this powerful Otzum V'Rov. And as the result of the Rov is, he becomes V'Rov. He becomes that powerful and takes over. Therefore, as a result of this, we'll see in a moment, we're in a helpless state. Therefore, Hashem should have rachmin on us and forgive us, although we failed and we were ensnared by this formidable power, which is called Satan. This is the Or HaChaim HaKodesh. Now he says something very interesting. Vayareu so HaMitzrim. We say they did bad to us. The Egyptians did bad to us. What does this mean? Pirish. Shem tzos yisodus ha'odom. That through the intermediums of the yisodus, the four elements of the makeup of a person, which became contaminated and putrefied due to the Eitz Hadas, it causes the soul to become evil. The soul became Vayareu, the soul became Ra. Who omram pirush osu osanu roim kemosam ki hamezik kishiasriach yamshich elov ratzona nefesh. When the environment is putrid, ultimately even the neshama can become putrid. Now they show, I once heard this from Rav Shadron many years ago. The Gemara says, there's something you study on Tisha B'Av, that when Uncle is brought up the various souls from Gehenna, he brought up Titus, he brought up Bilam, and they said, whatever what you could do to harm the Jews, harm them. They're in the world, they're in Gehenna. If you're in Gehenna, evidently you come to recognize truth. You're being punished. What do you mean harm the Jews? Now that you see truth, you say it's something they should be encouraging, but yet they're not. See, he said, you see from there, this is what the Rechaim Kodesh is saying. Even the neshama can be impacted negatively, that the neshama assumes the characteristics of contamination. That even the neshama desires to be involved in things which have no relevance, or the antithesis of what the neshama should be. This is Vayirei Osar HaMitzrayim. Being in that state of constraint with the Yetzer Hara, it caused that even the neshama should have a desire for all the evil.